I'm setting up for my Write Like Charles Dickens day, and this one, I feel like it's going to be a bit of a push. I mean, I'm not sure if I can do it. I'm going to give it a really hard go. I'm making my coffee. You can see I'm eating my breakfast like he does. Now, he probably wasn't setting up video equipment while he ate his breakfast, and he certainly wasn't spending the better part of the 2 hours he had from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. getting his child ready for school. But that's what I had to do, so that's what I did. But I am going to do the major part, which is going to be the writing from 9 until 2. But I only have a few minutes, so I better get back to setting that up. Charles Dickens was a working writer, and he treated writing like a day job. He got up at 7 in the morning, had breakfast at 8, and 9 o'clock he was in his study writing. He stood to write at his bookshelf, very much like Hemingway would do later. And he would write from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. when he would break for lunch and then go for a 3-hour walk around those streets of London. And this is why he was so amazing at describing London, because while he was walking around those streets, he was getting the feel of the city, hearing the sounds. And one thing that Dickens does so remarkably well is describe things. Now, because he treated it like a day job, Dickens often would speed up the ending. And we looked at this a little bit at the end of NaNoWriMo last month when we talked about endings and how when you've got a deadline, you got to rush through them sometimes. And you can definitely see this in A Christmas Carol, where Marley's ghost, stave 1, is beautiful, written in these long descriptions, and an end to it is about this long. And the ghosts get progressively shorter chapters as we go along, because he's writing to a deadline he needs to finish up. And I would argue that The Christmas Carol is one of his best books because he had a deadline. He had Christmas. He had to get the book out before Christmas. And because of that, the book is one of his shortest and one of his most tightly written of all his books, and definitely my favorite. I read it a lot. I have read it more than any other book, even more than Alice in Wonderland, and before having a daughter of my own, I read it every single year. In the 19th century, when Dickens was writing, the world didn't have the Christmas story that we have now. Christmas was just another day, and a lot of businessmen were thinking of opening on Christmas. And then A Christmas Carol came out, and it revolutionized what Christmas meant to the people in England. It changed everything. No one wanted to be like Scrooge at the beginning of the book. They all wanted to be like Scrooge at the end of the book. Since I was 14 years old, I have read this book every year before Christmas, and it is the book I have read the fastest because I need to finish it by Christmas morning, and I have stayed up many a Christmas Eve to try and get it done. When I was writing like Dickens, I did this. I got up at 7. I had to get my daughter ready for school, which Dickens probably didn't have to do. I made my own breakfast, which again, Dickens probably didn't have to do. And I went on, and also his breakfast probably wasn't peanut butter toast and Diet Coke. Similarly to Hemingway's breakfast was probably not that, but similarly to Hemingway, I stood to write at the beginning, and I wrote live, and you can see the full write live there if you'd like. Incredible, hit 6K. Else hit their goals. Wow, 175, awesome. Good in here for 5 hours, and I'm getting a backache. I wrote from 9 till 2, and I got somewhere between a 4 and 5K sprint that day. It was a very productive day, and I live in country New South Wales, not in London, England, so when I went for a walk, it was around Hartley. After writing all day, I took myself out, and it was such a relief to go and walk outside. I was so physically drained and emotionally tired after writing so much, and I thought the sprints I had done and pieced together and still hit that 5K mark while I didn't hit 6K were so much easier than making myself write for 5 hours straight without a break. And I just feel like so much admiration for Dickens, who did that every single day. Oh, the horse is looking at us. Coming in January, I'll be writing like Shonda Rhimes, and I've started already pacing that out at the time of recording this. And she describes writing like a muscle. And you have to train every day if you're going to run. And running gets harder if you miss days. And during NaNoWriMo, we wrote every day. And it was great because it made it so much easier to sit down and write. And now I find, after taking a couple days off to edit this video, that I am struggling to write and feeling guilty about it, which I don't like. And I wonder if maybe treating it like a job is the best way for me to continue. And I will be exploring that more, writing like Shonda Rhimes and trying to write every day and treat it like a job. She writes from 8 till noon, and maybe I'll do that because 9 to 2 is a really long time. It's a car.
Heartbeat is actually 40 times a minute, and a hedgehog is 300 times a minute.
You did.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It's still interesting. I was out walking with Van while she was scooting, and we tried to observe everything that there was around us. And one of the things we observed was this tiny turtle, which is a common turtle found here in New South Wales, Australia. It is a long-necked turtle. The turtle wraps its neck inwards rather than pulling its head completely inside its shell because of the long neck. And we moved it off the road. We dubbed him Tiny Timmy, which I thought was funny because of the Dickens reference. But for Vienne, we were naming him Timmy after her favorite animal in a book, which is the dog from Famous Five. But this is Tiny Timmy, and we did rescue him, and he got across the road, and he is safe, happy in a creek somewhere. And if you have gotten any value out of this, or you have any affection at all for Tiny Timmy, he really wants you to hit that like and subscribe button. If you want to see more of me writing like famous authors, check out this playlist here where I write like Hemingway, Stephen King, and more. I'll see you there.